All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Hot Route Takes. This is the NFL Week 10. Are we on 10? I'm scrolling up here.
Week 10,
Gosh, yep,
baby.
10. Week 10.
Crazy.
NFL preview. It is flying by. Loving every second of it, though. Getting a podcast and bring you guys some content each week, 2 episodes a week, as we always do. This one here will be our game picks and preview for the upcoming week, as well as some big storylines and takes we have for certain teams, certain players, and how we're feeling just past the halfway mark of this NFL football season. So let's get right into it, guys, as we always do with the Thursday or the Sunday night and Monday night football games. To recap them quickly. We had a few teams that are pretty important, divisional teams and Christians Chargers to get to. The first is the Sunday night game. The Buffalo Bills falling on the road 18-24 to the Cincinnati Bengals. Since Buffalo is in Brian's division, I'll let him touch on what he saw from them in this game, and then I'll get on Cincinnati's side.
Cincinnati just came in and played a solid game. They got their weapons involved, and the Cincinnati offense just looks back to what we thought it would be this year, just throwing the ball all over the yard. Jamar Chase, T. Higgins getting involved, but I thought that Josh Allen played a pretty good football game, and the Bills just all in all are just not as good as they were before the injuries, man. And that's really what it looks like to me. I think they're still a really good football team. Still think they're playoff caliber football team, and once you get into the dance, you can make something happen. I think they're just good enough for that. But that they just really got hit hard with injuries this year, man, and it kind of showed on defense at times, especially in the secondary. Rasul Douglas did come in and play admirable football, I think, for them. But just in general, a little too much firepower on the defensive or on Cincinnati's offensive side of the ball. In this football game, they come out with the dub.
Yep, I think a more needed win for Cincinnati, and it was impressive to see the showing they had on Sunday night, especially when you consider every team in the AFC North now 2 games above 500. We've been harping on it since the beginning of the season, even before the season even started. The AFC wildcard spots are going to be 3 really, really good football teams, and a head-to-head win against one that figures to be in play, the Buffalo Bills. Big momentum for Cincinnati, and the way they've turned things around these last few weeks is impressive. So Monday night, guys, we had Christians Chargers getting back to 500, a 4-4 record now with a road beatdown of the New York Jets. Defense looked as well as they have, best performance all year. 4-4 for the Jets now as well, dropping that game. Christian, a lot of good things to pick from. What'd you see from your Chargers Monday night?
My biggest takeaway on this win is, this is the way the Chargers normally don't win games. I mean, the offense did not get going against a great Jets defense, and really the defense and our special teams won the game for us, and that's something, no one has said all year about this team. So I think that's a good thing maybe looking forward. Granted, it is what a lot of people are going to say, Zach Wilson at quarterback, but I just think for beating a team like this and we got 2 wins now under the belt in a row, I think we can build upon this. So I just think, one, we got sacks on the board. Been something we hadn't done all year really consistently. And then we had 3 fumbles. So you can say it's the Jets or whatever, but I think just you can build upon this with the defense that's not been playing great all year. But I will say for the Jets side, I think Brian might can hit on them a little bit more because that is a team in his division. But I will say, they really played not that bad of a game. I think Zach Wilson had to throw the ball. You could say a lot of it came when it was not – it's just at the end of the game. But for Justin Herbert, I think you can at least look at him and say, we can win games without just Justin Herbert being Justin Herbert. I think going forward, Austin Eckler didn't even get going this game. I will say Keenan Allen, shout out 10,000 yards of his career as a Charger. So I think that's a bright spot. Early in the year, I did say, Mike Williams is going to be maybe the number 1. Not going to happen. But a last little note I did take away from this game is Quentin Johnson was the number 1 route runner in the game. He may have ran the most routes. So with that being said, though, he only had, where is it? 2 catches for 14 yards. So maybe he's being the decoy out there. I don't know what to really take of it right now, or we're just trying to get more involved. When he was in college, he only had 1 job, and that was to go get it. So, for me, great game for the Chargers. Brian, you see anything from the Jets that maybe I've missed on?
You talked about a good bit of it, but I do think all in all, the Jets do have a chance week in and week out with their defense, and it showed up in this week. And even Zach Wilson, although he fumbled the ball 3 times, he didn't throw an interception. And if you're a Jets fan, that probably makes you happy because he threw the ball 49 times and had 263 yards. Granted, Christian did say it came mostly at the end, and I did see some ill-advised passes in the game myself. But all in all, I guess a net positive for Zach Wilson, given his track record and what he has been so far. And they just couldn't get the running game going, which is, for the Chargers, a great sign because that's kind of been a struggle at times this year. So credit to the Chargers with an impressive win.
Yep, and that catches up on NFL Week 9. Was an exciting week, so we'll move it along right to NFL Week 10 and our game picks for the week. Before we get into those, just a quick recap of the standings. Brian still holding the lead in our group, 83 and 53. Right behind him at 82 and 54, and Christian at 79 and 57. So this week we've got the clunker of all clunkers, the last season type Thursday night football game we get right here on NFL Week 10. I'll get off work early enough to watch this one, but I can't promise you I will turn it on because I don't think I care a lick about either of these teams. It's Carolina Panthers at 1-7, traveling to Chicago to face the 2-7 Chicago Bears. Don't really have much to say. I'm going to take Bryce Young just because I think they need to win more. They probably are due for a win more. And if you take, take away those two pick sixes, obviously big plays in the game. Carolina was in that game with Indianapolis last week. And I can't really say the same for the Bears. I think Carolina's more due for a win, so that's my only reason.
Yeah, I actually went with Carolina as well in this game. And I just think that Bryce Young, although he had 2 pick sixes last week and he's had a pretty rough start to his career, has shown flashes here and there of playing pretty good football. Given his lack of supporting cast and weapons, it's just tough sledding for him. But I am going to pick him against a weaker Chicago defense, and maybe Bryce Young has his best performance of the season this week.
Yeah, I went with the Carolina Panthers. I just think, Tyson Badgett has not been impressive. Last week had the 3 interception. DJ Moore was the big trade. Have not been that involved except for maybe 2 weeks out the whole year. And then last week we've seen Foreman get, 20 carries for 83 yards. I mean, you got to do more with 20 carries than just that. So I think their Panthers team has a little bit more talent than what we see right now in Chicago. So I just think Bryce Young, big win, big bounce back.
All right. Moving on, guys. We obviously had the marquee matchup in Germany last week between Brian's Dolphins and the Chiefs. This week in Germany, a bit more lackluster. It's the Colts taking on the 2-7 Patriots. Brian mentioned it pre-pod. Do you really think the Pats are going to go 2-8? It's hard to see. And Bill Belichick reportedly on the hot seat. Still wasn't enough to make me pull the trigger on Mac Jones leading the team to a victory. Give me the Colts in this one.
I did pull the trigger. I picked New England to win this game, and really what it comes down to is Bill Belichick's defensive mind. And listen to this. Gardner Minshew has the highest turnover-worthy play percentage rate in the NFL by 2 percentage points.
Yeah.
It's insane. This guy's getting away
Mm-hmm.
a lot of risky throws and plays and just in general. So I expect it to kind of regress to the mean a little bit, and some of these risky plays get picked off. Bill Belichick puts his players in the right position to make some plays and just find a way to win. I just can't see New England just continuing to lose with Bill Belichick calling the shots.
Yeah, no, I went with the Colts. I just think the opposite of what Brian said. I don't think it's going to be the quarterback. I think this is just going to be the Jonathan Taylor and Zach Moss showed. I mean, too many injuries on this defense for New England, so I just think the Colts is going to go to what they know, their bread and butter, and that's just run the football and get these running backs going, because last week that's what we kind of didn't see, because really the game just got out of hand. The defense took it over for them, but I think this week's going to be, how Bill Belichick likes to play football. I think the Colts kind of took that too this year, and that's how they're wanting to play football, so I expect this to be a very run-heavy game on both sides, but I just think I like what I see out of the backfield for the Colts way more than a washed-up Zeke and, what we've seen out of New England's room that just have not been impressive.
Yeah, I'm with you there, Christian. As we get to the 1 o'clock slate, we got a team we were gushing over last week on the recap pod. That's the Houston Texans, sitting at 4-4, traveling to Cincinnati, a huge test for C.J. Stroud and company. They looked as impressive as any offense last week. but that's not enough to have me pick against a rolling Joe Burrow at home. Give me the Bengals. I think Houston can keep it close, though.
Yeah, CJ Stroud, man. What an opportunity to make a statement in this football game coming off the performance he had last week. All eyes are on him. All eyes are on this game. So, what an opportunity. I don't know that he will capitalize on it, but I do think there is a good chance because T. Higgins and Jamar Chase being questionable really changes the outlook of this game for me and Cincinnati's ability to attack him in the passing game. But on the flip side of it, Will Anderson is questionable, so it's kind of either way where you go, there's kind of a negative. So I did ultimately settle with the Bengals, though. They've been too hot for me to pick Houston.
Yeah, I went with Cincinnati, and it's not so much for their offense. Their defense has been playing great. A lot of people hadn't been talking about them, but also we seen last week the tight ends get involved a lot for Cincinnati. So I think even with those receivers being questionable, I think there's a lot more weapons on the Cincinnati teams we just hadn't yet got to see or hear about because how much firepower is really on this team.
Yep. Next up, guys, NFC matchup between the Saints sitting at 5-4 and the 5-4 Minnesota Vikings. So, which team goes back to 500? Which team stays in the NFC playoff picture race? I think it's a close matchup. We gushed over Josh Dobbs' performances as coming in as the hero last week. I don't know if he's ready to pull that off back-to-back weeks. I think he'll have a fine week, but New Orleans defense is pretty sound, and Derek Carr's not turning the football over, so that's enough to have me pick New Orleans in this game.
Yeah, I think this game could be an opportunity for Derek Carr and company to kind of find a rhythm on offense with the blitz-heavy defense that Flores and the Minnesota Vikings run. With the weapons they do have and acknowledging that Derek Carr's going to have to get the ball out of his hands quick, it could click this week. So I am going to go with the Saints, like a lot of what you said, Chase, with the defense as well.
Come on, guys. Y'all didn't hear the pod last week, man. I'm going Joshua Dobbs. Jefferson did return to practice this week, but I don't really expect him to play this week. But if he does, I mean, I like it even more. But just what I've seen out of, the rookie wide receiver and the Vikings and Addison and just, the running game's kind of getting going. So I just think Joshua Dobbs, this team's has a little bit, I don't know what you want to call it, but there's just
Juice.
something going on. Yeah, a little juice. That's a good word for it. And just Joshua Dobbs, man, didn't know the plays, didn't know anybody he was throwing it to. Now you tell me he gets a week to actually know these guys, know the plays. I just think, what I seen last week was impressive for somebody that didn't know a playbook, and now he's getting to learn the playbook.
Yep, it's going to be a fun watch for sure. That Minnesota put in one of the better games in NFL Week 9 to watch at least. So fun one to watch coming up Week 10. Moving on, we've got the Green Bay Packers sitting at 3-5, traveling to the 5-3 Pittsburgh Steelers. Honestly, I think the Steelers, I'm going to pick them to win this game. Defense keeps balling, but I really do think, no sarcasm, that the offense is due for a better showing. They're not putting up points. They've literally been outgained every game. I think this is the game they flipped that switch. They outgained the Packers, and Kenny Pickett gets a few things going in the air, and that's enough to be the difference in getting the win.
I think it's about time the Pittsburgh Steelers lose a game. They are overachieving, man, and I'm going to pick Green Bay. I've been on the Green Bay train, even though I've been taking L, but I'm still riding it. Jordan Love and company, I'm going to pick them, and we'll see how that goes. That's all I'm saying.
Man, I'm going to go with the Steelers. I just think, one, cannot believe I'm saying this, but Najee Harris, I mean, the word I just said, juice, he's actually got a little bit. There ain't much there, but he got a little juice and got a touchdown last week. And then Johnson came back, and then I hate to say it, but George Pickens didn't look too good with Johnson's coming back, but Johnson looked amazing in his return. So, like Chase said, I expect this passing game to get going, and I just expect this defense to make Jordan Love look like he's looked all year, and that's not good at all.
Next up, guys, interesting one between 3-5 teams, the Tennessee Titans and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Tampa Bay coming off that heartbreaking loss to Houston last week, really in need of victory. Lost 4 straight, I believe, now on the year. I'm going to take Tampa Bay because Baker looked pretty dang good last week, and I still just not a Will Levis believer, and Tennessee just doesn't have enough pieces unless a big day from Derrick Henry happens. I just don't see it happening. So give me the Bucks.
Yeah, I'd be worried of a big day from D-Hop happening because I don't know if we had a single big game from Derrick Henry this year, have we? Maybe one 100-yard game?
Then we
I
had
don't know.
one decent game, but wasn't nothing crazy.
Yeah,
They get
nothing
behind a
crazy.
lot too, so it's not like he's not just leaned on like he used to be.
Yeah, I mean, definitely that's true, but I am going to go Tampa Bay here. Baker Mayfield has been marketably better than what everyone thought he was going to be, besides Christian, apparently.
Thank you.
But hey, look, credit where credit's due. I still don't think he's that good, but better than I thought he was. I'm gonna pick the Bucks.
Yeah, I'm picking Tampa Bay in this because they're getting this running game going and getting the running backs actually in the plays, and that's really opened this offense a lot. And I think, the team that has a defensive coach as a head coach, I just see a big bounce back after what we seen last week and what Houston did to their defense. So I expect this defense to come in this game and kind of make Will Levis not look as great as he's probably looked the last 2 weeks.
Yep. Next up, guys, we got probably the best game of the 1 o'clock window. 5-3 San Francisco 49ers coming off a bye week, and for that, 3 straight losses, taking on the 6-2 Jacksonville Jaguars on the road. Normally, I think San Fran's the better team, and honestly, for Jacksonville, I think they're a really, really good team. But this could be a case of playing your opponent at the wrong time, and a San Fran team coming off 3 straight losses and a bye week to prepare. I have a hard pressed time seeing them dropping 4 straight. But I expect it to be one of the better games of the day. I think in the end, it'll be a late field goal or something along those lines to put San Fran in the winner's circle.
Yeah, I went with Jacksonville, and I was going back and forth here. I think what it comes down to is the inconsistencies that's been on San Francisco's offense. Like you said, they're coming out of a bye week. They're a little bit healthier. Trent Williams might be coming back and playing. Brock Purdy, we'll see. I'm still going to pick Jacksonville here. Jacksonville's defense is playing good all year, and Trevor Lawrence is ascending. He's getting better. This offense looks good. Travis Etienne is a menace. I'm going to go Jacksonville.
Yeah, I was going kind of back and forth, and I got on Instagram and seen Brock Purdy taking care of his crops, so that really took my vote to the other side very quickly to Jacksonville. I just think, how this offense has been clicking. I think the 49ers defense, I mean, we've talked, not that much about defenses. I think their defense has not looked that great the last 3 weeks or 3 weeks that they've had games. And then I think maybe like Brian says, his bye week can be where they bounce back, but I just think this is a hot offense that they're going to have to play against in Jacksonville that I think Jacksonville's going to make some noise and kind of put themselves back on the map and say, hey, we look rough at the beginning of the season, but we're here.
Yeah, and honestly, that big Texans loss earlier in the year was kind of a shock, but it's not looking so bad now with CJ Stroud's play. So that's one of their 2 losses, and the other's Kansas City. So this is a good team. They've only dropped 2 contests on the year, so this matchup figures to be one of the better ones. Moving on, the last 1 o'clock game will be my Ravens hosting the AFC North rival Cleveland Browns. Already the second matchup in 2023. It'll be over. This time around, Deshaun Watson will be playing. I think Cleveland will be very motivated coming off a shutout last week. And honestly, we've got Cleveland this week, Cincinnati next. Even as a Ravens fan, I love our team. I'd be shocked to see us come out of these 2-0. That'd mean we'd go 4-0 against Cleveland and Cincinnati on 2023 season. I have a hard pressed time believing we'll do that. It's just such a back and forth division, so many great teams. That said, I think we're more likely to lose to Cincinnati next week, and I just like the matchup with Cleveland. I really do. If Deshaun had been playing better, even last week being his first game back, I'd be more inclined to pick Cleveland because they've got a good roster, but I'm just still not seeing enough from him to do that. So give me my Ravens at home to move it to 8-2.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the Ravens as well, and I think this is like a lot of AFC North divisional games going to be a battle. Like you're going to see some hits, you're going to see some good defense, but I just believe in the Baltimore offense a good bit more than I do in the Cleveland Browns offense. So, in saying that, I do realize these teams know each other very well, being divisional opponents, so things get weird, and I definitely see. I'm leaning Baltimore, but this game could really go either way,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm going to go Baltimore.
Dang. You know, I've been back and forth, man. The Ravens, they have shown some, bright signs. I just, there's just something on the other side, and that's that Cleveland defense that I believe in Cleveland's defense, and this Baltimore offense is supposed to be electric. OBJ, Bateman, we done heard all this in the last couple pods, but I just think Cleveland's defense is kind of maybe hushed this little offense that everybody's starting to go definitely big networks or Baltimore's best team now. We think they have the most complete team. I think Cleveland might put that on the hush, and I think we seen what Amari Cooper last week. Granted, it was Arizona, but only 5 catches, 130 something yards. I believe I could be a little wrong, but I just think Cleveland's got a little something going on defense, and I think Myles Garrett and just the rivalry of this game. I think we're going to see, I think just both sides be a great defensive game, but I just picked Cleveland's defense right now and what I'm seeing out of it.
Love it, love it, love it. The weekly Christian pick against the Ravens segment is over. We're going to move on to the 4 o'clock window, guys. We got an NFC matchup between the 4-5 Atlanta Falcons and the 1-8 Arizona Cardinals. Cardinals really looking like they're taking a chokehold on that number 1 overall pick, tanking right now, and I don't see any change in that coming. Even though Atlanta choked the game against Josh Dobbs in Minnesota last week, they still were in the game for most of it. I think I'm going to go with Atlanta in this one pretty handily.
Dang.
Yeah.
Did we lose Brian?
Did we lose Brian? Can you join back in?
No.
Christian, go ahead. We'll text
this.
Brian and see if we can get him back in.
Yeah, all right. Definitely, God, what I've seen out of Atlanta and kind of what their head coach has been doing, but I think Kyler Murray might play this game. So, I mean, if he plays, I'm not going to lie, I would go Arizona maybe, but I'm going to go with Atlanta just because, I mean, we've all kind of, not really all believe, but Brian's kind of beat the drum on this team, and I do think they have the power, superstar ability to kind of win this game, and they should just because of the firepower. And without no Kyler Murray, definitely, I'm going to say Atlanta.
Awesome. It seems like Brian is joining back in. Perfect.
All
All right. That's perfect. Christian made his pick, and you are on the table, Brian. Who you got? Arizona, an upset, or Atlanta?
I'm going Atlanta. I really would like to go down to Atlanta myself and tell Arthur Smith about himself and his usage of Bijan Robinson and not giving the ball in the red zone, but whatever. I hope he gets the ball this week.
Yeah. The weekly Bijan's not getting enough carries segment really pulses throughout the NFL in major conversations every week. And until that changes, it will be one because that's a really good player and a really high draft pick not getting the ball. So frustration is to be had in the organization and outside, obviously. Next matchup, the 4 o'clock window, we got the 6-2 Detroit Lions traveling to Christian's 4-4 Chargers. I think a really fun matchup. I thought the Ravens-Lions matchup was going to be a fun one. Honestly, Detroit traveling to a pretty good AFC team, really good quarterback. I'm going to take the Chargers to kind of put together a similar performance. Their defense played so good Monday night, and Herbert's just really looking good. I think if wide receiver, Kristen mentioned the rookie wide receiver Johnson, if he can get a little more involved and take that pressure off Keenan Allen, I would expect the Chargers to have a pretty good day because talent-wise, I think they're right there, if not past Detroit, even though Detroit plays just sound football. I'm going to take the Chargers at home.
I went with Detroit, and I think a lot of it has to do with Detroit's offensive line and run game, being able to get vertical. And, just having David Montgomery coming back this week will be, I think, a big bonus for their offense. We've seen what the offense looks like when Montgomery's going, and they can not set themselves up to have 3rd and longs. That's a big thing for Detroit's offense, and having a guy like Jared Goff behind center, you got to stay above the chains. So I'm going to go with Detroit here. I'm not going to say it's going to be a blowout or anything like that. I think the Chargers will be able to move the football, but I'm going to go Detroit.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Chargers. I just think, after what I've seen against the Jets, finding a way to win even without Justin Herbert, which I think this could be a different game. I think I can see Keenan Allen have a big game because I mean, even Josh, the last game they played was against the Raiders. Josh got going on the game, a running game for them. Granted, they did ultimately lose the game, the Raiders did, but I mean, he was the receiving leader and everything. So I just think the Chargers have way more weapons to make this game a whole lot closer, which, I mean, we've seen kind of not two Lions this year, but we have seen them drop a big game and then win some big games. But I just think the Chargers might have just too much going on positive right now in the clubhouse to kind of really pull this one away and win this game.
Yep, with you there, Christian. Moving on, we've got the Dallas Cowboys sitting at 5-3, hosting the 2-7 New York Giants. Their second matchup of the year. Obviously, that Week 1 matchup was a snooze fest as Dallas completely blew them out of the water. I really expect the same thing in Dallas this time around. CeeDee Lamb should have a huge day, and Dallas's defense probably gets a few turnovers and keeps the train rolling.
I'm gonna go with Dallas.
What? No Barkley talk today, Brian? Okay.
No, I would give you starting.
Yeah, I think I was about to say, I think this defensive line is going to have a field day. And if they even do try to feed the ball to Barkley, I think this might be a game that Barkley, high ankle sprain, he might just not make it to the game, practice injury, he might not be there. He's not healthy, but he is healthy kind of game, I think, is be a smart choice for this New York team. But, I mean, when you got your third string quarterback being a starter, I don't think anybody expects you to beat a Dallas team right now.
All right, we'll move through these last few we got here, guys, and get to our takes. This next one up is the Seattle Seahawks coming off that disappointing performance against my Ravens. They'll be back at home hosting the Washington Commanders. I think Seattle is much better than what they showed last week. They just ran into a hot team, I think. So I expect a better performance at home in front of a raucous crowd, maybe get to Sam Howell a little bit better and get a little pass rush going. That's what Seattle's defense has been lacking, some explosive plays to me. I think they'll get a play or two and win this game, but I expect a close contest.
Man, I think this one could be an absolute shootout. I really do. I think this one could be haymaker after haymaker, but I am going to go with Seattle here, and I'm just going to go with them because I think they can stay a little bit more consistent on offense with that run game that they have.
I actually went with the Commanders just because of what we seen last week. They could not stop the run for anything. Seattle couldn't. So Washington hasn't got that involved. But with Brian Robinson and Gibbs starting to get involved a little bit, I can see them getting these running backs going against this Seattle team. And like Brian said, if it is a shootout, just what I've seen out of Washington when it does turn into a shootout, like we've seen with them with the Eagles this year, I just like them a lot more than what I've seen out of Seattle if that is the type of game that we're going to get. So I went with Washington.
Yep, and pre-pod, guys, we talked about the lackluster Thursday night game. We got another one for Sunday night. We're already asking when can they start flexing these games out. We'll get there eventually, but unfortunately not the case right now, and we're going to be forced to watch a 4-4 New York Jets travel to the 4-5 Las Vegas Raiders. Don't expect a lot of points in this one, obviously. It's pretty close. It's split down the middle, 50-50 in this pick'em. I landed on the Jets because I believe a lot more in that defense, and as long as Zach Wilson don't turn the ball over, I think he'll score enough points to win the game.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go with the Jets too because of their defense. But let me ask you, man, where would the Jets be if they had Aiden O'Connell right now?
Probably same, maybe a little better. I don't think Aiden O'Connell is that good. I know you're a believer in him.
No, I'm not a believer.
I thought you
I'm
were.
just shitting on Zach Wilson. I'm sorry.
No, you don't miss those opportunities. So yeah,
I don't.
All right, man. I went with the Jets, man. Brian needs to be paying attention to this game very closely because on Black Friday, the Jets might be upsetting the Miami team, but we'll save that for another pod. But, I just think the Jets defense against Aiden O'Connell, who hadn't really played an elite defense yet, this would be his moment to make or break, and I just don't see Aiden O'Connell being that guy. But, I mean, we may be surprised to see a Jimmy G appearance in this game, possibly, if it gets ugly very quickly, but I just see this Jets defense. I mean, I seen what they did to my quarterback and Herbert, who couldn't get anything going. So I don't have that much faith in Aiden O'Connell getting anything going. And just, I see Breece Hall having a field day against this Raiders defense that has been better stopping the run. But I just think it's Breece Hall. He's due for a big day.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you there. Last game, Monday Night Football contest, we'll have the Denver Broncos traveling to Orchard Park to take on the Buffalo Bills. Obviously, Bills coming off that loss to Cincinnati last week. in need of a win. I don't think this one is particularly close. Give me Buffalo by a few touchdowns.
Yeah, I'm going to go Buffalo here. I don't think there's a whole lot to talk about in this matchup. I do think that Denver isn't as bad as maybe we thought they were a little bit earlier in the year, or at least I did. But I guess that's what happens when a team drops 70 on you. But Buffalo's a good team. I'm going to pick them.
Yeah, I went with Buffalo. I really think Buffalo's definitely the better team in this matchup. But I mean, Denver has been playing great, but I will say the thing that does scare me with Denver and what I've seen this year, and kind of definitely with Buffalo, and Brian will agree with this probably, is if Denver can get that running game going, this game will be a lot closer than I think a lot of people think it will be. So, I mean, I'm going to go with Buffalo, but if Denver gets the running game going and Russell Wilson keep playing how he's playing, I mean, we hadn't talked about that a lot on the pod, but he's not playing that bad either. Granted, he's not being asked to do
True.
much, but he's not turning the ball over, keeping them in games. But I just think Josh Allen, I mean, really, I think this is what the Buffalo team is right now. It's Josh Allen, hero ball. And I just think against a Denver team that hasn't been that great on defense, this would be a perfect day for Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs.
Yep. With you there. So that's our NFL Week 10 game picks. Just past the 30-minute mark here. We're going to get into our takes of the week and get out of here. First up, I'll start with my Ravens take. Preached on, harped on, and gushed over the defense for a long time now. Obviously, the recap show last week, I touched on it, and after their impressive performance against Seattle. My take for this week, I think I already sent this to you guys in the group text, but I believe Mike Macdonald, RDC, is the best defensive coordinator in football right now. Obviously, halfway through the year, a lot of directions this thing can go still. Got some high-powered offenses still to play, so this thing can vary. But just everything I've seen from him, and I know we have a talented defensive unit, but schematically, the pressures he dials up and to lead the league in sacks without a household name is a big thing for me. You got Geno Stone, who has more picks. Let me find this. I'll get back to that stat in a minute, but he has more picks than a lot of teams himself, 6 interceptions. And then Kyle Van Noy and Jadeveon Clowney, 2 names out there in free agency very late in the year, and those are your guys off the edge getting a lot of pressures and recording a lot of sacks. That's a big thing for me. Coverage-wise, we didn't sign a corner. After Marcus Peters left, we had Marlon Humphrey, who missed the first few games of this year, and we got Rock Yassin, a free agent signing, and Ronald Darby, who was a late cut, playing a lot of snaps. Arthur Millette, a practice squad player we picked up, playing a lot of snaps in the nickel corner. And just our coverage grade 91.2, second in all of football. As far as just the overall defense is allowing a touchdown on just 8.7% of opposing drives, the lowest mark of any team since my 2000 Baltimore Ravens, regarded as one of the best NFL defenses in the history of football. So you take the consideration the talent he has. While it may be great, just the pieces he's put together and the schemes he runs, all these, I'm telling you, these stunt pressures. If y'all want to watch film defensively and just really have your eyes opened on how things can change with a good scheme, watch his stunt pressures, man, because he'll have Patrick Queen run into the middle of the offensive line and simultaneously take 2 or 3 offensive linemen and free up Justin Madubuike, a great pass rusher this year, to get to the quarterback. Seattle had to play 7-man pass pro last week, and still, just with 6 rushers outnumbered, still able to get home. And you got the guys playing coverage like they are on the back end. That's enough to have me regard Mike Macdonald as the best DC in football, and sure to be a hot commodity for head coaching circles next season, if I had to guess. So, what say you guys? Any other guys that pop out that could argue that title for or against Mike Macdonald, or you agree with me and like what you're seeing out of him? Go ahead, whoever.
Go ahead, Brian.
Well, I don't know if I'm biased or what. Vic Fangio's a household name. I mean, he's a guy whose schemes everyone's trying to get the next Vic Fangio in NFL right now with the cover 6 defense that's been spreading like wildfire for a little while now. You know, the Eagles even hired him to come in to try to help them stop Kansas City. It didn't work, but just thought that matters, I guess. But I hear what you're saying, Chase. And I do believe that he's a very good DC. Yeah, I don't know how many years he's been doing it, but I know that
Second year.
second
Second
year,
year.
yeah,
Young guy
very,
too. 30, like
um,
mid-30s.
very impressive. But in my opinion, it's like almost saying like Ben Johnson's a better OC than
I get it.
Mike
Andy
McDaniel,
Reid.
maybe.
Yeah, or, yeah. Someone
Yeah,
more established. Yeah, I get it. I get
he's
it.
been very impressive in his time, but just a little bit more before I put him up there at the very top. But very impressed.
Go ahead, Christian. Lay into him.
But man, nah, I ain't gonna lay into him, man. But there is a guy. God, I'm trying to find his name because I forgot his name. But who cares? I won't even try to find his name. Kansas City defense, man. Whoever
Steve
their defense
Spagnuolo.
coordinator is, yeah.
Spagnuolo. He played great. He played a great game last week.
He
I
did.
think he's. I mean, another guy that you can say who's a great defensive guy. Who, like I hinted on earlier in this pod, this team, the Chiefs. I mean, they're winning not how people think they're supposed to be winning. It's their defense is winning them a lot of games this year. So I think this is a guy that not podcast, but the broadcast is already like during games headed on, hey, this is a guy that's going to be talked about when it's coming around for head coaching jobs. And
Yep.
I just think what he's doing with his Chiefs defense, even without Christian Jones when he was not playing for them, I think that's pretty impressive to me and kind of what he's getting out of his young corners. I think last year they had a bunch of rookies playing. This is their second year and what he's getting out of those guys. So that's just another guy I can think of. I do respect what the Ravens are doing on defense, but I just think this Chiefs defense is not getting enough love.
Yeah, honestly, when you look at the talent discrepancy, Kansas City severely lacking outside of Chris Jones being that premier pass rusher. I don't think you can argue that they have the same talent that Baltimore does with Roquan, Kyle Hamilton, Marlon Humphrey, those type of guys. Not that type of name power on KC's defense. So I see your reasoning there, Christian. He's having a great year, and that game he called against Miami in Germany last week, sound performance. Really had Tua and company off balance and off schedule the whole first half. So good mention there, Christian. Ryan, Christian, if either of y'all have your team takes for the week, I'll let you go ahead.
Go ahead, Christian. I got a long NFL take. My team's on a bye week anyway, so I'll just save my take for the NFL take because it includes Miami. So
love it.
All right. My team take is I just think, I think this defense get better and better each week. Definitely going up against this Lions team, I think we'll see a brighter spot. And then next week going against Jordan Love will definitely be a bright spot for this Chargers defense. And I think we'll see our true test with this Chargers defense when we do play ultimately the Baltimore Ravens. I think we'll see where this defense is. And then Derek, the DC, is actually calling plays now for the Chargers. So I think, getting him 3 weeks of actually calling plays to kind of see what he's wanting this defense to become, I think that ultimate test will be the Ravens. So where do you think, is this a positive you think is the DC coming in and actually being the defensive coordinator and taking over calls for the defense a good thing for this Chargers team, or do you take that as a negative move?
I think it's got to be considered good to me, just given the performances they've had, especially in the secondary. Too many broken coverages, guys running open first half of the year, and cleaning that up. You can win a lot of football games just keeping things in front of you. That's really been the Ravens' MO since Mike Macdonald's come in, is don't allow explosive plays, quick scores. That can beat you very, very easily in the NFL. They clean those things up, which I think if he installs that in them, looks like he has these for the last couple weeks, that'll go a long way for the Chargers. And really my thing was the run defense. I really questioned it Monday night if they could hold up against Brees Hall, even though the Jets' offensive line is a little lacking. So seeing that improve and hold up against better defensive or better offensive line units. This will be a great test this week against Detroit, who has one of the better offensive lines in the NFL. They continue to do things well in that area. I think that bodes well for the team going forward, and you would have to credit that to the new voice in the defensive ear.
Yeah, I kind of have like two thoughts here. One being, I think there's obviously talent on the Chargers defense, and that if the right strings are pulled, the defense can definitely play better than they have. And I think, I don't know what the ceiling is, but I definitely think it can be pretty good. But then the other side of it is big picture. You brought in Staley to be a defensive-minded coach, and he's supposed to kind of take care of that side of the ball. And if he's not the one calling plays, that's not really what's happening. So I kind of see it both ways. I think it's a good thing for the Chargers going forward this year, but maybe not long term.
Love it. Good question there for the pod, Christian. Things looking to turn around for your Chargers, I have to say. A big test this week, as I said, against Detroit. And it's all going to hinge on that defense and what they do because we know who Justin Herbert is, the talent he is, and what he can do to lead an NFL offense. Just so much hinges on that defense, just not allowing the big plays and keeping teams under a threshold of points and keeping the game manageable for the offense. So, good question, Brian. You got a lengthy NFL take. I'll let you go ahead and get to that, and we'll give you our input on it.
All right, so we're kind of at the halfway point of the NFL season, and one thing that I wanted to talk about, just because I think it's an interesting topic right now, with all the good defenses across the NFL right now, I wanted to do a little top 5 for all of us. I don't know if you
Love it.
guys want to give your top 5 or what, but I
can do
have
it.
mine, and I have it ranked out in a couple different categories here. Coverage, pass rush, and run defense. And I have 5 teams ranked on each of those. So, I used the same 5 teams I had in my top 5, but I just broke it down and listed those top 5 teams and their different areas of strengths. But do you guys want to give your 5 defenses and I give mine? How we want to do this?
Go ahead, Brian, because I want to hear your categories as well again. I think I know what my 5 overall are, but I'd like to rehear the categories and think about how I would place them there.
Okay, so I guess I'll start with run defense. And like I said, I have the same 5 teams in every category. I picked the top 5 defenses in my opinion, and then I branched them out in different categories. And for the run defense, the 5th best run defense in my opinion, 49ers of the 5 teams. I think every one of these teams has a good run defense, but the Niners just don't have the best. I think they're very good. I just think a lot of their guys are more pass rush oriented, if that makes sense, versus run stuffing. But 4th, Miami. We had problems early in the season, but since then we have really just eliminated the run. A lot of that does have to do with us getting ahead and making other teams have to pass. But when teams have tried to run the ball, they have had no success, really, since week 1. So other than that, or number 3, I got the Jets run defense. They've been solid all year. Quentin Williams and co. are very good. Number 2, I got Baltimore's run defense. I think it's just all around solid, and it's been good all year with extremely high level, second level play. And then the best run defense, I think, is the Eagles. I don't think the numbers reflect that at this point in the season, but I think just the D-line being where it is, linebackers kind of being banged up so far this year, I think they just have the personnel to just be dominant on the front. And then, okay, I'm going to switch over to pass rush now. And the 5th best pass rush out of the 5 teams I just mentioned, I think, is Miami's. I think all of those teams have a good pass rush, but a lot of the times we only rush 4, and then we rush 5. We might send David Long, linebacker, who doesn't get home often. But Jalen Phillips, Bradley Chubb are very good in their own right. All 5 of these teams have very good pass rush. But like I said, we only rush 4 often, so our sack numbers and everything like that aren't always going to be great. The next one, I got the Jets pass rush 4th. I think that they have a solid all-around unit, but the other team's just a little better in my opinion. I got the Ravens 3rd. I don't think their personnel's the best. I actually think their personnel's probably worse than the Jets and the Dolphins, but I think they scheme things better, and they got, like I said, really guide level, second level play. But I am going to take Bradley Chubb and Jalen Phillips over what you guys got on the edge. Number 2, Eagles. Yeah, man, we all know what they're capable of. 49ers pass rush, number 1. They're in their own category, pass rush. And then coverage. The Eagles I have at 5. They have good corners, but the other teams are just a little better in my opinion. San Francisco with 4, especially with their ability to cover the middle of the field, I think was the big thing for me with them. But boundary level play, not quite as high as these other teams. Baltimore 3, the coverage, all around defense. They've been playing it all year. Maybe their numbers probably say they should be 1 this year, but the cornerback duos for the Jets and Dolphins, man, it's really what separates in the coverage. I think if the Jets had a capable offense, their defense would be miles above a lot of teams because their offense is just incompetent. Their defense is out there all game, and they still hold up. So I did put the Jets 2, coverage 1 for Miami, just because I got 2 players, and I think maybe a little underrated. Jalen Ramsey being a little bit older. People forget about him. He went to Miami. Xavier Howard being healthy for the first time 2 seasons, playing in a zone scheme. He's been very good this year. He was extremely good last week, and he's been great all year. I mean, allowing next to nothing. So I ranked them out: 5 Eagles, 4 Dolphins, 3 Ravens, 2 Jets, 1 Niners.
Okay, very strong. I like those 5 teams. I think I'm pretty close on my same 5. And honestly, for time's sake, I think Christian is probably best if you and I avoid ranking all 5 categories and rather,
A
yeah,
unit as a whole. That's what I'm gonna
that's
do.
where I'm gonna go, and then I'll touch on which teams I like in which areas and players and so forth. So list them again and your 5 overall defenses, Brian. I'd love to hear that from 5 to 1.
Eagles, Dolphins, Ravens, Jets, Niners.
Eagles, Dolphins. Okay, so the only difference I have is one team. And it may surprise you. And it's honestly going to be Philadelphia dropping out because I think the talent, the overall team there, roster is there. But they have lacked, they really haven't produced to the level I think they're capable of this season. 2 games letting Sam Howell really just dial them up all game. And Kirk Cousins on Thursday Night Football had a pretty big day against them. They were just sloppy with the football. I think the Eagles are really benefiting from a few turnovers right now, and that's saving them because every game's been a close contest with Philadelphia despite the 8-1 record. That said, the roster defensively, probably one of the best in the NFL, if not the best. So I think they have the potential to rise up this list as the season goes on. So overall, 5th team that you didn't have on, I have the Cleveland Browns. And for me, I think them and the Steelers are very close cases, as well as the Eagles. And what set Cleveland apart is they both have that great pass rusher, Myles Garrett for Cleveland, TJ Watt for Steelers. I went with Cleveland over Pittsburgh because they have a great corner to back it up. Denzel Ward has really found himself again this year playing great football. And Cleveland's just been pretty sound all year defensively as the offense is kind of holding them back right now. 4th, I went with the New York Jets. I think they're a really, really good unit, but I think they're just going to get burned out towards season end because how bad the offense is. Williams, CJ Mosley, the great cornerback duo. I think I agree with you. This is the best cornerback duo, best coverage team in all of football. But as I said, as we move forward, just think they get a little burned out. 3 for me is actually the San Francisco 49ers. I think they're just they're showing some sloppy play, and they're along the lines with the Eagles where their roster is built out, perhaps the best in the NFL. The first few weeks, they showcased that. These last 3 losses just hasn't been the same. You can attest that to the offense just taking a step back these last 3 weeks. So that's where I feel with them. But I would expect Nick Bosa and company to turn things up, get that pass rush home a little more, and then you take on Fred Warner being the best inside linebacker in all of football. I think he's rightfully so going to be a defensive player of the year candidate for years to come because he's that good. Secondly, God, I can't believe I got you this high now that I'm listing it, Brian, but I've got the Dolphins second. And that's just because I believe in Jalen Ramsey's addition that much. I still view him as, if not the top corner in football, he is a true difference maker. They completely erased Travis Kelce last week. Great scheme, great pressures they can dial up with elite, talented, toolsy pass rushers. I think they're only moving up from here to me. And KC's offense hasn't exactly lit the world on fire this year, but anytime you hold them essentially to 14 points because of the scoop and score, that's a great day. And I think things are trending up for your Dolphins. So I'll put them at 2 right now. And number 1, I'm loving my Ravens, man. I think we're a great unit. Are we the best, most talented NFL defense? I'm not sure. I'm not ready to say that. But as my take today preached on the love for Mike Macdonald and I have for him, I think we've got, you may not see elite pass rushers, but Odafe Owe is a very toolsy. He's really putting it together. These last couple weeks, he's registered a sack. He's got all the tools. He's got to stay on the field. So that, along with the veteran leadership of pass rushers with Clowney and Van Noy, guy for a big payday in Matabike, 6 straight sacks. Just so many good things to harp on with this defense. I think it's got everything you could want, along with the defensive mastermind that I praised earlier in this pod. So, bias aside, I tried to leave it off the table, but it's hard not to when I love a defense this much and a team this much. So that's my top 5. Christian, any different from me and Brian on the top 5 units, and where do you put those teams?
Yeah, no, the 49ers, I kind of did not put in the top 5. I just think, the 3 losses they've had, they just hadn't looked that good as a unit. And then Nick Bosa, we've already talked about, has not looked like Nick Bosa. I will say we have not touched on this a lot, but Chase Young being added to this pass rush, I think seeing what that's going to become may change how I view this defense in the next couple of weeks. But just the 49ers defense, I mean, we know that the linebacker crew is amazing. Cornerback room has some ups and downs, and just the defensive line for some reason just has not been what it was. And I think, for my 5th spot, I have the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think, they've only allowed 15 touchdowns this year. They only allow teams to have 377 yards per game, but this is a defense that's out there. I mean, I feel like every time I look away from the TV, turn back to it, Pittsburgh defense is back out there. So I just think moving forward, if they do have some offense going, this defense could even be a better unit. And then for my number 4 team, I went ultimately with the Jets. I mean, this is a team that's only allowed 14 touchdowns. I just think, like I said, they're the best cover team. Their linebacker room doesn't get enough love. I think C.J. Mosley and then Quincy Williams, the older brother,
he's good,
is hooping out there at the linebacker, having an all-pro season. So I just think they have 3 great corners, and a lot of teams can't say that. And I mean, they have a lockdown, Michael Carter in the slot. Then they have DJ Reed and Sauce Gardner locking it down. So like y'all said, they could just keep that unit not out there for so long. I think we'd see even a better team by miles just if they keep that defense not out on the field with the Jets. But for for my 3rd team, come on, Brian. Don't be shaking your head. They're 4th, bro. The Jets.
No, I'm back in. I was out for a minute again.
Yeah, I know. I wasn't going to say anything because
All right.
We were clear.
Who's the 4th?
The 3rd team.
Jets.
The Jets.
Jets.
5th is Pittsburgh. 6, I put the 49ers. Just unit hasn't looked that great. Kind of what I hinted on. And then for my, 2nd team?
3.
Or 3rd team?
Yeah, you went Pittsburgh 5.
Yep, you're
Jets
good. And Jets at 4. So for the 3rd team, don't worry, we're waiting for them. For the 3rd team, I just can't get over the Chiefs, man. In my division, great defense. They've been playing. I mean, Brian, it's your team, brother. Lights out offense, supposed to be elite, great, and they've held y'all.
Means Miami or Baltimore's defense ain't on here.
No. They're 3, bro. The Chiefs are.
That means
3.
we're top 2, Brian, right? Right,
yeah,
Christian?
that means you're top 2.
No, the Browns are in there. That means one of Miami or Baltimore's not.
Yeah, he's going to do it. I already know
somebody,
he is.
somebody might not be in now. But, the Chiefs are only allowed, 16 touchdowns and 288, and they've played, Justin Herbert, they played a Tua, they played some high-power offense, and to be under that 300 mark for average per game, I think it's impressive. For the number 2 team, man, I will do it for you, Chase. It is the Baltimore Ravens. They are overperforming, I think. You have a Geno Stone out there leading the league in picks. I think this is one of those teams that, you're going to look out there and not know who's who, but this defense plays a complete unit, and I think that's something that, I think we'll all agree with. This is a team that's, I think, right now averages the least amount of touchdowns, and they're at 10 touchdowns allowed for the season. So, and they're only allowing, 262.6 yards per whole game. So, but at number 1, I got the Cleveland Browns. I think this defense is great. They've also not had a quarterback for almost more than half the year. Been stuck out there kind of with Pittsburgh, but they only allow 17 touchdowns, and they allow the least amount of yards per game out of all the defenses in the league. And I think for a team that's lost a lot, I mean, offensive lineman, Nick Chubb, Deshaun Watson doesn't really have a number two like we've kind of hit it on with Baltimore. This team really doesn't. I mean, they just traded People Jones, who is their number two, you can say, away for nothing. So I just think this Cleveland defense has been great. Myles Garrett's been amazing. They went and got some pieces for this D-line. The cornerback room has been locked, but Cleveland defense, man, I can't get over how great they've been this year, and just if their offense could just be a little bit better. It's kind of like with Pittsburgh. You get both of these defenses off the field, and even the Jets you can put in that category. Those defenses get off the field and actually rest. I think that defenses cause a lot of chaos with a complete unit as a whole.
So 3 AFC North teams, Pittsburgh 5, Baltimore 2, Cleveland 1 for Christian. I will say, Christian, I am completely shocked. You've got KC in there over San Fran and Miami. Just looking. Go ahead.
I will say, bro, Miami's allowed 27 touchdowns. When it comes to big opponents, their defense never can come over top of those big opponents and get the big stops when they come down to the line.
Okay. Moving forward, I think with Jalen Ramsey, that would be a huge difference for this defense, personally. And a lot of times with that great offense, they have built a lead. Teams are just kind of getting some garbage time yards to me. I just overall unit, I like what they're doing. And I have to say, KC's inclusion surprised me. Just looking at PFF grades here, they are overperforming to me because they've got a 67.6 defensive grade. That's 22nd in all of football. Run defense is a 59.0. Let's look at pass rush, 70 even on pass rush, coverage 68. So nothing jumps off the table. That said, Christian is right. They've won a lot of games with defense this year because the offense isn't what we're accustomed to. So maybe the talent's not there, but the results are. So I understand the inclusion based off that, Christian. Brian, any rebuttal to either of our lists, and how you feeling? I'm sure
Christian's
you got stuff
been
to say.
a little low, I think, on two players specifically, just two, and it is Jalen Ramsey and Xavier Howard.
But you already know what I'm going to say, Brian. What do I say about all players? If you ain't on the field and can't stay healthy, I don't believe into you until you show me otherwise.
Jalen
Ramsey had a pick. I'm proud of him. One pick, brother. I got to see
player,
it.
Bro. He's been consistent. He's been not only consistent, he's been like one of the best defensive players in the league for a decade almost.
That's what I'm saying. He's been playing long enough, and that was his first big injury for me. And I've seen enough these last 2 weeks.
I don't know.
He erased Travis Kelce.
As a Chargers fan, my thing that knocks me off of Miami a lot is, my team has pass rushers. Your team, I look at y'all have pass rushers and still, I ain't going to say have a hard time getting to a quarterback, but struggle to get to the quarterback.
I think we're second in the league in sacks.
Still. Can't do it, Brian. Can't do it, Brian.
Hey, he did it to me. He did it to me last week when I told him the Ravens had that pass rush. It's an interesting combo. I love the
You played three great teams and a lot of bad teams.
Yeah, the criteria you had, Brian, I think is the formula you look for in building a great defense. Coverage, pass rush, run defense, obviously important in the NFL. Every team we mentioned has a strong point in just about all of those, and great coaching to back it up. So that was a lengthy NFL take. It's probably, unless Christian, I'll let that be mine, truthfully. Christian, if you got anything, we'll get
real
yours.
Quick. I think the Rams at the end of this year will be looking for a quarterback. Yes, Matthew Stafford's still tied to a contract. If they cut him, it'll be, an 86 dead cap. So I don't think that's the move, but I expect the Rams with what the season's going at and how it's looking right now in the quarterback market are drafting a young quarterback to maybe take over for Matthew Stafford next season.
Wouldn't be shocked. Absolutely would not be shocked. They're in a division too. If you figure Arizona gets the top pick, they'll kind of be on the track to turn things around themselves. Seattle, Geno Smith's not exactly a young pup, but he's going to be there guaranteed for the next couple years, and Seattle's got a young dynamic offense. And San Fran, they are who they are, just a great roster. Don't see LA really making any ground anywhere anytime soon. but that's a credit to them for getting that Super Bowl. Matt Stafford, you have had an amazing career. I think we need to just have a episode dedicated to how underrated Matt Stafford was his entire career.
Just listing all his injuries is all that episode needs to be.
Brother,
just all his injuries and his stats with those injuries.
Yeah, I thought you were just going to say he's not been on the field. No. Okay.
Just him being who he is on the field with the list of injuries and what he's doing with those injuries.
Amen to that, brother. I know he was throwing to Calvin Johnson for a while, but if you look at the, I believe there's a stat that came out a few weeks ago about the guys who racked up the most yards through the first 6-7 weeks of the NFL, and they had all one thing in common: Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, Calvin Johnson. All of them were being thrown to by Matthew Stafford, and he has been a great quarterback for a long time. Unfortunately, our generation, these QBs we grew up with, Drew Brees, Phillip Rivers, all these guys, Matthew Stafford appears to be next. Aaron Rodgers, obviously, among those as well. We've loved these guys, loved to watch them for a long time, but it's not going to be too much longer. And I see your point of LA drafting a guy. I think it's definitely on the horizon, Christian. But credit to Matt Stafford for just a great
Bennett,
career.
Man.
No.
Is he in jail or
drafting?
Brian, anything on the Rams QB direction going forward?
I agree. I think, if they're honest with themselves, it's time to move on. Injuries are piling up. The guy's getting older. Your team's not in a competitive window. Just go ahead and cut ties, move on with your life, and start the rebuilding process.
Yeah.
And hopefully Sean McVay does stay.
They did sign Carson Wentz today. Meant to say that before. Yeah, Carson Wentz is there. Might say a little bit more to Matthew Stafford, though, with that signing is what I took that as. Yeah. But we see if Carson Wentz hit the field.
Yeah, well, I saw enough of that in Indy not too long ago and Washington.
Bro, low-key, bro. I don't want to take the pot too long, but go look back at his Indy stats. Carson Wentz did play better than it looked.
For me, it's always been the fumbles,
inconsistency.
The inconsistency and the injuries. Obviously, Christian, your big thing, injuries. He is a testament to that. He's just been.
I seen him with the Colts with 2 broken ankles, wrapped up, diving for an end zone touchdown, fumbling, everything Carson Wentz in one play at one time.
Yeah,
exactly.
He's like the character in the SpongeBob episode where he's like, "I've got paper bones and glass skin," or whatever. He's in the full body cast. Every morning I break my arms, and every afternoon I break my legs.
Goodness,
he's been through it, man. But testament to him for hanging around. There's some teams out there, Giants, Raiders, who are starting guys that we don't really much believe in. So
there's been 10 NFL rookies quarterbacks this year, the most ever in NFL history to start.
Crazy.
Yeah. Insane. Unfortunate to see some really good talented QBs go down with season-ending injuries.
Man, like
so
Daniel
knock
Jones.
on wood. Yeah. Well, yeah. Good guys. I'm not going to crap on the Giants. We do that enough on here, guys. Knock on wood. Just our guys have been healthy. Tua, Lamar, Justin. Those guys are the young up-and-comers of the AFC. That's really what this pod is centered around a lot of, because we love our teams. We love our young QBs. Hopefully those guys just remain to stay healthy and give us a good second half of the NFL football season. So with that said, that was NFL Week 10 preview show. We will be back, as always, Sunday night, recapping before the Sunday night football game, all the Sunday action and the Thursday night stinker that's sure to come between the Bears and Panthers. We'll recap for you guys as well. Thank you guys for listening. As always, continue to like, share, and subscribe. Until next time, we will see you later. Peace out.
Cleveland!
Oh, God.
Don't let me down, Deshaun.
I'm afraid he will, Christian.